It's February 28th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with the stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the Constitutional Court's ruling on the acting president's non-appointment of a court justice. The court ruled unanimously that acting President Choi Sang-mok's failure to appoint opposition-recommended justice nominee Ma Eun-hyuk last year was an unconstitutional act. Choi's potential appointment of Ma is expected to impact ongoing cases at the court, including President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer stressed to US President Donald Trump the need for security guarantees for bringing peace to Ukraine, while thanking him for leading the peace talks to end the war. Trump made clear to Starmer that Russian President Vladimir Putin won't press to restart the war if a truce can be reached. Trump says 25% tariffs on goods imported from Canada and Mexico would go into effect next Tuesday, alongside yet another 10% tariff on China, which he says combat the continued influx of illicit drugs into his country. In a unanimous decision, the Constitutional Court ruled on Thursday that acting President Choi Sang-mok's holding back of the appointment of the justice nominee Ma Eun-hyuk stands in breach of the parliament's authority to recommend court justices. Our Oh Soo-young explains what this means.
The Constitutional Court has ruled that acting President Choi Sang-mok's decision to withhold the appointment of justice nominee Ma Eun-hyuk was unconstitutional, violating the National Assembly's authority to select Constitutional Court justices. On Thursday, the court announced its verdict that Choi does not have the discretion to review or reject justices elected by the National Assembly, reaffirming that the legislative selection power is independent and substantive. Choi had appointed 2 out of 3 justices put forward by the Assembly in December last year, but deferred Ma Eun-hyuk's appointment, calling for bipartisan agreement first. At the same time, the court dismissed the request from the National Assembly Speaker to confirm Ma's status as a justice or order his immediate appointment, citing legal limitations. Following the ruling, Choi is now under significant pressure to appoint Ma Eun-hyuk, a left-leaning judge recommended by the opposition Democratic Party. His appointment is politically sensitive, as he would be the 5th progressive justice on a 9-member bench. Choi's office said the acting president would respect the court's decision and would look carefully into the verdict, but couldn't comment on if or when Ma would be appointed. If Ma is soon instated, various complications could arise in President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial, as the court would then decide whether or not he will participate in the deliberation process. Given that Yoon's trial hearings concluded this week, the court could exclude Ma. Even if Ma is included, experts say he might choose to recuse himself to avoid controversy and maintain the current 8-member bench. But if he participates, the court would have to decide whether Ma should conduct a brief review of trial materials or hold a retrial process, which involves a more comprehensive examination with more hearings. The latter could significantly delay the ruling, which is currently expected in mid-March. President Yoon's legal team on Thursday strongly condemned the court's decision, calling it politically motivated and aimed at securing a 6-vote majority to uphold Yoon's impeachment. Yoon's team raised concerns over Ma Eun-hyuk's past affiliation with progressive legal groups, which they said undermines judicial neutrality. They claimed that acting President Choi is not legally bound to appoint Ma and should conduct a thorough administrative review before making a final decision. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer also made his way to the U.S. to discuss the Ukraine crisis with U.S. President Donald Trump, who touted that peace will be achieved once a deal is reached. Our Choi Soo-hyung reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer have met to discuss issues, including the negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. On Thursday local time, during a summit at the White House, Trump claimed that the minerals agreement with Ukraine could help guarantee Ukraine's security. He also expressed confidence that if a ceasefire deal is made, Russian President Vladimir Putin will keep his promises.
I've known him for a long time now, and I think he will. I don't believe he's going to violate his word. I don't think he'll be back when we make a deal. I think the deal's going to hold.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is scheduled to visit the U.S. on Friday local time to sign the Natural Resources Agreement following Trump's demand for repayment from Ukraine. During the summit, Trump walked back his statement from about 8 days earlier, saying that he couldn't believe that he had called Zelenskyy a dictator. But Trump opposed Ukraine's NATO membership, stating a peace deal must come first before deploying European peacemakers to ensure Kyiv's safety. Prime Minister Starmer positively evaluated Trump's leadership in the Ukraine peace negotiations, but stated that history should be on the side of the peacemaker.
We're focused now on bringing an enduring end to the barbaric war in Ukraine, and that's what we must do now. Because it can't be peace that rewards the aggressor. We agree history must be on the side of the peacemaker, not the invader.
During the meeting, President Trump read aloud King Charles III's state visit invitation letter on the spot, calling it wonderful and praising Charles as a great and admirable gentleman. Prime Minister Starmer said that this second state visit symbolized the special and strong relationship between the two countries. During his first term in June 2019, Trump made a state visit to the UK at the invitation of Queen Elizabeth II. Hyun, Arirang News.
No security guarantees in the minerals deal, yet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is set to settle with the deal regardless. Why seal an unfavorable deal? Let's turn to Professor Kursk. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Hello.
Thanks for joining us. So what do you think made Zelenskyy sign the deal even with security guarantees that he has been insisting?
What's becoming increasingly clear these days is that this war was not simply a war for the independence of Ukraine. This war was a war by proxy between America and Russia over the control of Ukraine and Ukraine's natural resources. So it is common knowledge that Ukraine was only able to resist the Russian invasion thanks to American support. American support was not selfless, and now I'm afraid, everybody knew that the bill was to come, and it's what is happening now. Americans are just giving Ukraine the bill for the support they've given over the last 3 years.
Then should we assume there'll be no U.S. security guarantees at all, or will there be more discussions and negotiations in the near future?
There will be discussions, but they will be like business negotiations. You know, former French President Charles de Gaulle used to say that states do not have friends, states have interests. And so this U.S. support to any security guarantees to be given in the future only depends on these guarantees benefiting to them or not. So now the question is not how, the question is more like how much. So there will be negotiations, but it will be business negotiations, unfortunately. They won't be about democracy or anything like that. There will be on money and resources. Money will talk.
So they'll be more like business talks based on national interests and needs. Now, does and will signing the minerals deal then help Ukraine get invited to peace talks between Trump and Putin, or not as much? What do you think?
Ukraine now is very helpless because when you cannot provide for your own security, by definition, you are to defend on others. So as Ukraine cannot stand for themselves, they will need to find another partner to back for their position. And this is why President Zelenskyy, over the last few days, has been trying to he tried a last movement to turn to Europe to see for the EU to give him some stronger support in these negotiations. But the problem is that Europe, contrary to America, doesn't have much military support to offer. So I'm afraid that for the moment, long story short, what we see is that the world economy is slowing down. Natural resources become more and more precious, less and less abundant. And I'm afraid that both America and Russia will only do what is best in their interest. And the short answer to your question is no. Ukraine will not have much to say in this negotiation.
Well, here's the thing. U.S. officials argue that U.S. access to Ukraine's minerals and natural resources is already a security guarantee because that itself limits and restricts a reinvasion by Russia. Is this a valid argument?
It all depends on the price that is put on these natural resources. So what I mean now is that what you can see all over the world is that the world economy is slowing down. And right now with AI, new technologies and the like, the minerals that Ukraine has to offer are extremely precious for these technologies without getting too technical. So these minerals that Ukraine has to offer will become more and more profitable, more and more expensive. So then, of course, if Russia thinks it is in their best interest to be more pushy in these negotiations, or if the US thinks they can get more from what they invested in weapons, in weaponry, in support over the last few years, only time will tell. What I can tell you now, for sure, is that these minerals that Ukraine owns are as much of an opportunity as of a curse for Ukraine, because it makes Ukraine a target for imperialist powers. That's what is happening now. Ukraine is having resources, but Ukraine doesn't have the military resources to defend them. And so, as you can imagine, in international relations, this is a very bad place to be.
Well, clearly, Trump is more of a winner here. He's gotten what he wanted, Ukraine's natural resources and minerals. Then what is needed next to bring lasting peace in Ukraine, Professor?
For the moment, it is very difficult to envision a lasting peace with leaders like Trump or Putin. It is very clear that Trump or Putin are not principled people. They do not care for peace. They do not care for democracy. Very, very obviously, I mean, I'm not revealing any secret here. They are only after what they think to be in their country's best interest. And in the case of Putin, this even included waging a war against Ukraine. So as long as we have this sort of populist, aggressive leaders, I'm afraid that lasting peace cannot be achieved. A lasting peace would achieve a deep change of mindset, and this mindset cannot happen without a change of political ideology. And of course, also a change in the leaders of such and such countries.
Alrighty, sir. Thank you so much for your insight and your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Staying in the U.S., Donald Trump said Thursday that 25% tariffs he vowed to impose on Mexico and Canada will take effect on March 4th. He added that an extra 10% tariff will be implemented on Chinese imports as deadly drugs are still coming into the U.S. Lee Seung-jae reports.
Earlier this month, U.S. President Donald Trump put a pause on his plans to impose 25% tariffs on imports coming in from Canada and Mexico. This would allow the two neighboring countries to negotiate a deal to possibly avoid a tariff war in the region. However, Trump on Thursday announced that those tariffs will take effect on March 4th as his administration sees insufficient progress being made to curb the flow of fentanyl into the U.S. from bordering countries. A White House official also noted that while migration issues have seen improvements, there are still concerns over fentanyl deaths in the U.S., blaming the inflow of illicit drugs coming into the country. On top of the March 4th imposition of tariffs on Canada and Mexico, Trump told reporters at the Oval Office that Chinese imports will see an additional 10% tariff, resulting in a cumulative 20% tariff.
The drugs come in through Mexico. They come, a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them come from China. And that's why we did that. It's 10 plus 10. In
10
case,
plus 10
was there confusion on that?
There was, sir, yeah.
Okay, 10 plus 10. It's a second 10.
Trump also added that come April 2nd, announcements will be made on countries that the Trump administration will impose its reciprocal tariffs on.
And then on the 2nd of April, we have reciprocal tariffs. That's reciprocal, where we charge countries what they're charging us. And nobody should have a problem with that. We have reciprocal. It's reciprocity. It's something that I think everybody I've spoken to said that's fair, and it is. If somebody charges us 25%, we charge them 25. If somebody charges us 10 or 15 or 30 or 70, we charge them an exact like amount.
Meanwhile, Trump's economic advisor Kevin Hassett told CNBC in an interview on Thursday that the U.S. leader will decide on tariff policies for all countries after April 1st. The advisor said that there's a study coming out on April 1st on which Trump will base his tariff decisions for all countries. Mexican and Canadian officials are set to meet with U.S. officials on Thursday and Friday in the hopes of avoiding the 25% tariff by Trump. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The U.S. economy grew at a solid 2.3% annualized rate in the fourth quarter of last year, based on a strong private consumption. The Commerce Department reported on Thursday that the rate was unchanged from its initial estimate. However, inflation indicators have been revised upward from previous reports, raising concerns about a price rebound. U.S. GDP recorded strong growth in the 3% range for the second and third quarters of last year. Now, the department said that the annual growth rate of 2024 was recorded at 2.8%. North Korea reportedly tested a strategic cruise missile in the West Sea, saying the launch demonstrated the reliability of its nuclear deterrence. According to the North Korean Central News Agency on Friday, the missile launch was carried out on Wednesday morning. Now, overseeing the launch, the North's leader Kim Jong-un stressed that ensuring powerful striking capabilities will strengthen deterrence, while calling for a thorough war preparedness with its nuclear forces. The report also noted that the missile launch was aimed at displaying the military's counterattack capabilities and various nuclear readiness options. And North Korea is said to have dispatched more of its soldiers to aid Russia's military operations in Ukraine. More than 1,000 may have been sent to Kursk early this month, on top of around 11,000 they sent last year. Choi Min-jung has more.
North Korea has reportedly deployed another batch of troops to support the Russian military. According to the National Intelligence Service on Thursday, additional North Korean troops have been deployed to the front lines in Kursk since early February. The exact number is yet to be determined, but military sources speculate over 1,000 have been sent. This deployment follows around a month of relative calm, during which the North Korean military had reportedly withdrawn from the front lines due to a significant number of casualties. One source stated that if the troops depart by ship from Cheongjin Port or travel by train from Najin, their exact whereabouts are difficult to track because they may move beyond the military surveillance, but the Joint Chiefs of Staff said the military is closely monitoring.
Our military is closely monitoring the movements of North Korean troops.
In October last year, the regime deployed around 11,000 North Korean soldiers to Russia. So far, around 4,000 casualties have been reported. A senior Unification Ministry official said Thursday that the additional troop deployment is expected to be a part of a planned rotation to maintain combat readiness. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Yoon Se-young, and this is The World Now. Israel has confirmed the identities of 4 bodies handed over by Hamas in exchange for the release of Palestinian prisoners. The announcement came on Thursday following forensic examinations. With this handover, the delayed release of over 600 Palestinian prisoners and detainees was also made possible. This was the final exchange of the 6-week-long first stage of the Gaza ceasefire agreement. Meanwhile, according to the Egyptian government, negotiations between Israel and Hamas for the second phase of the ceasefire began on Thursday in Cairo. The talks aims to prevent the collapse of the agreement as the first phase concludes this weekend. Key objectives of the negotiations include ending the war, securing the release of all remaining Israeli hostages, and ensuring the complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza. Right-wing influencer Andrew Tate, who, along with his brother Tristan, is facing trial in Romania for human trafficking and organized sexual exploitation, has arrived in Florida. The Tate brothers, who departed on a private jet early Thursday, deny all charges, claiming they are misunderstood. The brothers, who are British-American nationals, were able to leave Romania after prosecutors lifted a 2-year travel ban. Romanian authorities, however, stressed that this decision does not mean the case against them has been dropped. They remain under judicial supervision and are required to report to authorities regularly. Their departure has raised speculation over possible political influence from the Trump administration. President Donald Trump, however, has denied any involvement. The Tate brothers have been vocal supporters of Trump, with Tristan Tate claiming that his brother Andrew has helped sway millions of young men to back the U.S. president. Police investigating the death of Oscar-winning actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa said Thursday that preliminary autopsy results showed no signs of trauma or foul play. However, authorities have yet to determine the exact cause of death and have not ruled out the possibility of criminal involvement. The 95-year-old actor and his 65-year-old wife were found dead alongside their dog in their New Mexico home on Wednesday. Officials are waiting for further autopsy and toxicology reports, including tests for carbon monoxide exposure, while the investigation remains ongoing. Pop star Katy Perry, known for hits like Firework, is set to embark on a space journey aboard Blue Origin's New Shepard rocket. She will be joined by Lauren Sanchez, a fiancé of Blue Origin owner Jeff Bezos, CBS anchor Gayle King, a former NASA rocket scientist, a civil rights activist, and a film producer. This mission marks the first all-woman space flight since Soviet cosmonaut Valentina Tereshkova's solo journey in 1963. While an exact launch date has not been announced, the historic flight is scheduled to take place this spring.
We'll continue to have a pleasant taste of spring to close out February. Temperatures will continue to hover way above norms into Sunday, but with a wintry mix in store over the long weekend. However, ultrafine dust will continue to engulf most of central parts of Korea throughout the day today, so keep your face mask handy. Meanwhile, strong winds and dry air are causing a high risk of fire, with numerous reports of wildfires in recent days. And especially eastern parts of Korea are facing an intense wildfire season, so please stay safe. A morning sprinkle in southern provinces will let up shortly, and highs in most of southern provinces will get up to 15 degrees Celsius. Here in Seoul and Chuncheon will be topping out at 12 degrees. The forecast for upcoming long weekend looks rough and wet despite mild temperatures, and especially those heading to the east of Gangwon-do province need to be mindful of heavy snow that could pile up to 50 centimeters until next Wednesday. Then the weekend's precipitation will bring another round of winter chill our way.
That is all we have for today. New Day and Arirang will be back next Monday at the same time, 10 a.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.